Welcome back to Time of Death. This video is for informational purposes only and in no way meant to glorify or condone violence. In today's video, we'll be discussing the murder of Hector Ulysses Robles. Robles was shot and killed Sunday, September 14, 2014 in the 500 block of South Bernal Avenue in Boyle Heights, according to LA County Coroner records. Officers in the area heard gunshots and found Robles, who was pronounced dead by paramedics at the scene at 10:45 p.m. Dennis Vigil was subsequently arrested and charged with the murder. The following is the evidence at trial. At about 10 p.m. on September 14, 2014, Hector Robles returned to his home on South Bernal Avenue in Los Angeles. Robles, his mother Piedad Chavez, and his young son went into the house with groceries they had purchased. Robles went back outside, telling his mother he was going to go lock the car. Manuel Medina, who lived across the street from Robles, looked out his kitchen window and noticed Robles walking on the sidewalk. Medina also noticed a man walking behind Robles. The man appeared to be Hispanic and about the same height and weight as Robles. Robles turned into his own driveway and walked along the passenger side of a van parked in the driveway. The other man also turned into the driveway but walked along the driver's side of the van. At the front of the van, the men faced each other and had a brief conversation in Spanish. Medina could not make out what they were saying. The man then raised his arm and fired 5 or 6 shots at Robles. Robles fell to the ground and Medina called 911. Robles' mother, Piedad Chavez, who was inside the house, heard her son say, "Don't do it here because my mother is here and my son." She then heard 5 gunshots and ran outside. Chavez saw Robles laying on the ground. He raised his head and said, "Mother, don't forget who did this to me." He repeated that twice. Chavez later told police that Robles said it was little boy's brother Daniel. She also told police that Robles said it was Danny Boy. Los Angeles police officer Razi Udine was in the area, heard gunshots, and drove towards the scene. Along the way, he noticed a green Mitsubishi Montero with a tan bumper driving on Inez Street, going in the opposite direction from the officer. He noticed the vehicle because there was no other vehicles driving on the street, and it was traveling very fast. Officer Udine observed that the driver was a Hispanic man wearing a black tank top. The officer continued to Bernal Street, where he was the first officer on scene. He later told investigators about the Montero. The primary investigating officer for Robles' homicide was LAPD officer Jorge Alfaro. He interviewed Chavez in the early morning hours of September 15, 2014. She was distraught, very sad, and almost in shock. Chavez told Officer Alfaro that her son, Robles, was a member of the Crazy Riders. His nickname was Fantasma. Chavez also told the officer about Robles' identification of his killer as little boy's brother Daniel, or Danny Boy, who were also members of Crazy Riders. Chavez had accompanied Robles to visit Little Boy in jail once or twice. Little Boy's real name was Juan Carlos Vigil. Little Boy, who also went by Tattoo, sent Chavez a photograph of himself and asked her to pray for him. She gave the photo to Officer Alfaro. During his investigation, Officer Alfaro learned that the defendant had been dating Marlene Diancy. A green Mitsubishi Montero was registered in Diancy's name. Police attempted to locate the defendant in Los Angeles but couldn't find him. In November 2014, they went to Diancy's residence in Bakersfield, discovered the defendant was in the residence, and after an almost 8-hour standoff, took him into custody. Oscar Orantes, a police informant, testified in the past he had paid taxes to both Robles, known as Fantasma, and Danny Boy, when Orantes was selling cigarettes, DVDs, and fake documents on Alvarado Street, near Wilshire and 7th Street in LA. Orantes testified that he heard the defendant threaten Fantasma on 2 occasions. Both times, the defendant threatened to kill Fantasma because he was a snitch. Following the trial, the jury convicted Dennis Vigil of first-degree murder and sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Hector Ulysses Robles was 43 years old at the time of death.